Hey, welcome to Loveable AF. I'm Grateful Sherry. So today I wanted to talk about another what I learned. And it's what I learned the first time I ran away and the only time I stole a car. First off, let's just be real. Like, I learned that you should never steal cars. But let me tell you this story. I was 16, so it was May. So it was really about a month and a little bit after I'd even gotten my license. And I had been dating a guy for quite a while, and we were in love. That teenage kind of love that's like kind of desperate and intense. And he was living with his grandma, and his grandma was actually one of the, I would say, the scariest person I've ever met in my life. And when she found out that we were dating, because I had actually dated her son too, because they were the same age. Like, she'd had an old son, and then I dated the youngest son, and then the youngest son, I'll call him, let's see, what do we want to call him? Let's call him, I like protecting names and faces, right? Let's call him John, the grandson, John, and then the other son, let's call him Paul. The son. So anyways, her oldest son had a baby young, and then his mother, and they weren't together anymore, sent him to live with his grandma. We were kind of like young troublemakers, all of us. And when she found out that I was dating John, she came in, she hit him in the face in school, like we were in school in the hallway, like just poof. And then she said that if she caught him anywhere around me again, she would kill him. And here's the thing. I believed her. Like, on a deep level, I believed her. She was really scary. And so we, as 16-year-olds, super smart, decided maybe it'd be a good idea to run away. He needed to get away from her because she was super dangerous and super scary. And who was going to help us, right? And he had gotten a tattoo. His tattoo was like right here, and it was about the same size. It was pretty big right here. And she carved it out with a butcher knife. And so we decided that was the time we should run away. My mom happened to be out of town. And he went around like where I lived and found a vehicle that had the keys in it. And we loaded up. It's like I brought my flute because I knew I could pawn it. I brought my ghetto blaster because I knew I could pawn it. Just some clothes and stuff. And he pretty much just had what he had. And I used to make dream catchers, and so I brought some of those too in case I needed to sell them. And like, not real thought out here, right? It wasn't a good plan. And I felt so much shame about this, because I hurt my whole family. I hurt all the people who loved me. And as I looked back at this, I was like, you know what? There's some other things here. I mean, I was doing this because I felt this deep, deep love and fear for somebody I loved. And it was a real fear. This woman was really, literally insane. Her oldest son, his father, rode his bicycle when he was 8 years old from Los Angeles to southern Utah just to get away from her. So she'd been mean and abusing kids for a long, long time. So anyway, we get in, and I start the truck, and I back it out. And I'll tell you, like, the feeling of it was pretty intense. I mean, like skydiving, walking on fire, similar feelings. We drive over, load in our few meager belongings, and off we go. And we drove and drove and drove and drove. And we were going up to, he wanted to go back to his mom, which is kind of a difficulty, right? Because she's the one who sent him to this abusive place. But I wasn't an adult at the time. I didn't think of all this. And even now I look at it, I'm like, what have I done for this kid? Because he needed help. He desperately did. I, as a 16-year-old girl, was not equipped to give it to him. This was our plan as such. And we got up and we went to his... actually, right before we got, it was in northern Nevada. Right before we got there, we ran out of gas, and we didn't have any money. Like we had ran out of all of our money because we didn't have a lot of money. It's like, I think we left town with like $50 period between the two of us. So just even gas to get there. And I remember he went in and he sold one of my dream catchers, and that got us to his stepdad's place in northern Nevada. And we stayed with him for a little bit. And I say stepdad, it was like his mom's old boyfriend, like, right? And we pawned the stuff, like my flute, we sold the flute, we sold the ghetto blaster, we sold the stuff, and then I was like, well, what do we do? I mean, and he wanted to go home to his mom. So we went home to his mom, which of course his mom then called my mom, and then the police were involved, and you know, but we were in a very rural part of Nevada, and so it took a little bit of time for all that to happen. And the agreement was that his mom would bring us back, and then we would be arrested and stuff. So that was how it was. And the guy whose truck we stole came up to Nevada and got his truck. Now here's the thing. Obviously not cool to steal a truck. I don't recommend it. And both of us paid multiple thousands of dollars in restitution to him. An interesting side note, he actually had put $10,000 in that truck. We never found it, thank God. Oh my God. I just think like how much worse it could have been. What kinds of stupidity to 16-year-olds, or 16, I guess he was 15. He hadn't turned 16 yet. Which is why I stole the truck. What we could have gotten up to with $10,000. So I'm so grateful that was there. Looking back at it, right? So we ended up going back. We drove back to southern Utah, and when we got here, I didn't know where the police station was, like, to turn ourselves in. They're like, well, you live here. I'm like, I don't know where the police station is. So there was a cop parked at the old playhouse. It was a bar that's been torn down. And so we drove up to the cop to ask him where the police station was, and he arrested us right there, which happened to be right when the school buses were coming through. And so I'm standing on the main street with handcuffed while school buses full of people who knew me are driving by. Yeah, that was a real highlight. But we ended up being put in detention. But it was interesting because at the same time, apparently there had been a really large bust of people who were selling narcotics. So the juvenile detention center was actually overflowing with juvenile delinquents like myself. And so they had us all in a gym. They put us all in a gym because they didn't even have room for us. And it ended up being, it was like, as they started processing us, it was like me and this other guy and my boyfriend ended up in a room by ourselves for some reason. I don't know why. And we were getting ready to go to the courthouse. We were getting ready to be processed. And I had on this Metallica t-shirt with like this like eyeball, and it like had holes in it and everything. And my boyfriend, John, he's like, he had a purple t-shirt on, and he's like, you can't go to court in that, let's trade. So we traded shirts. This is the kind of guy he was. I mean, the scar from his tattoo getting carved out was still not healed. You know, he'd been, oh my gosh, shuffled off away from his mom. His mom didn't want him. His grandma wanted to abuse him. And I was trying to take care of him. But I was 16. I had no clue what that looked like. But that's the type of guy he was. So he went to court with the Metallica t-shirt, and I went to court with the purple t-shirt. And we were ordered not to see each other again, and we haven't ever in our lives. Sadly, it didn't go well for him after that. He did go back with his mom, but it obviously wasn't a good situation. And he did spend time in prison for manslaughter. So, why am I talking about this? He did write me a letter one time. And he's like, hey. And I was like, crap, because I was married. I'm like, hey. I finally wrote back. I'm like, listen, I'm married and da-da-da. And then he was like, do you happen to have this other girl we went to school with's address? I'm like, no. But he has requested to friend me on Facebook before. But anyway, so here's the thing. I got thinking about this. So what did I learn, right? I mean, because I hurt the people that loved me. And I have a whole story about that. But when I look back at it, even as an adult, I'm not sure how I could have helped him. Like what we would have done, because he had been shuffled off. Nobody wanted him. But he needed somebody to care about him. Not me. Like he needed an adult, right? And as I looked at it, I was like, okay, well, I made some real poor choices, but they were made from this desire to love and take care of and be of service. And so it was interesting. As I looked at it, it was like, it gave me some more space to maybe give myself that forgiveness that I've needed for years. Because I've worked through a whole bunch of this stuff, but as these things come up, sometimes you're like, it's this little bit of like fear, like what if people knew that I had stolen a car? Because so it was expunged off my record. I am no longer a felon, but as a juvenile, I was. And it's not something I'm like ashamed of, but it's like, well, but what if people know that about me now? What would they think about me? And just recently I started to decide that I don't care what people think about me. If my stories, if the things that I've been through can help people to find their own way to forgiveness, to find their own way, because I'm not saying what I did was okay, but the cool thing about forgiveness isn't about making it okay. It's about allowing yourself the space to love yourself more, to show up more. And why do you want to do that? The more I love myself, the more I show up, the better a mom I am, the better I am just in my whole life, and the better I feel. And that is important. It's very, very hard to show up and do things if you feel shitty about yourself, if you are carrying around all of this baggage and garbage and all of these shitty stories about yourself. And so even if you've done something like hurt everybody that you love and stolen a car and ran away, maybe look at it again. Maybe look at that experience and go, what was underneath it there? And what was underneath it there was a beautiful, pure, like, I wanted to help. It was not smart, but that's what was there. And it allowed me to have that space, a bigger space to forgive myself. And because I made amends. I cleaned up with everybody. Because if you noticed, I said the first time I actually ran away twice. So that's another story for another day. But the more that we give ourselves the space and forgive ourselves and love ourselves and are accepting of all of the parts of us, including the parts that made stupid decisions when we were 16, had no clue what to do when the person you love is being threatened by somebody truly, truly scary. Like, what do you do, right? And when I look back at this experience, I mean, it taught me that I was resilient, it taught me that I was strong, and it taught me that I was tough. But overall, it's taught me that I needed the grace and the space to love and forgive myself. And that there are all kinds of kids out there who need us to step up and help their parents, oh my gosh, start loving themselves more. Because if his mother had loved herself more, she would not have thrown him away. We don't throw away the people that we love if we love ourselves, if we're taking care of ourselves. We only throw away people that count on us if we're hurting and we're messed up and we're stuck and we're in pain. Because I don't think people are bad people. I don't think she was a bad person. I think she'd had a lot of trauma, and I think she allowed it to be the thing that made it okay for her to throw away her son. So, no matter if you have not taken care of your kids, if you've done something stupid like stolen a car, whatever it is, the best thing you can do is find the place to forgive yourself and give yourself that grace and that space. Because from there, loving yourself and really caring about you, showing up for you in the way that you've always wanted, that's the thing that heals the trauma. That's the thing that puts this stuff in your rear view so that you can show up and be the kind of woman that you want to be, the kind of woman who does take care of her kids. Because I know, I can't even imagine not taking care of my kid. But it's literally all these experiences that made me that way, that made me the ultra committed mom, right? It's because of these experiences, because I saw what it was like. And I saw the ultimate price that he paid for having gotten thrown away as a child, and that the shit that he did to act that all out. So, my biggest takeaway here is, no matter what you've done in the past, it's in the past. I cleaned it up. I paid the restitution. I forgave myself. I found a way to give myself the space to love me as I am, with all my flaws and all my shitty decisions. And I have found a way to step into being the kind of woman that I want, the kind of mom that I want, and just the kind of person that I want to be. And it is that simple, but if we don't love ourselves first, it's very, very hard to love other people out there too. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. In case nobody has told you yet today, you are lovable as fuck just the way you are. And if you're like, I would love to work with her, crying mess and all. But seriously, if there's something that you want to heal, if there's something that you are stuck on, if there is something that is, you are not loving yourself, you are not knowing that you are lovable as fuck just as you are, I urge you to get with me. Let's get on a call. Let's see if we're a good fit. Let's see if we could work together. I have a few different programs that are possible for us to work together. But my mission is that no more kids get thrown away. Like, all of us moms heal our stuff, do our work, and we show up in a way that we are cherishing and supporting our kids. And we're cherishing and supporting ourselves, because we can, the more we do that first, that's easy to do it then for our kids. So if that's for you, get with me, and I will see you another day. And in case nobody has told you yet today, you are lovable as fuck just the way you are.